This is about a writer named Joseph Mitchell. I did read the book of articles written for the New Yorker magazine by Joseph Mitchell. I don't know if anyone listening to this will have heard of Joseph Mitchell. When it comes to writers, people in general have heard of Ernest Hemingway, Scott Fitzgerald, William Faulkner, and James Joyce. Maybe they haven't read anything written by them, but they've heard of them, the big names. But I think it's a safe bet that Joseph Mitchell is forgotten now. Most of the work in the book was straight nonfiction, but there were a few short stories and some pieces that were mainly factual, but contained especially one character, a Mr. Flood, who was a combination of several people, all of the same type. Many of the pieces seemed serendipitous. He's out for a stroll, he meets some people, he listens to what they have to say about themselves, their work, the history of the locale. However, it's not completely by accident that he winds up where he is. Here's how one piece begins. Every now and then, seeking to rid my thoughts of death and doom, I get up early and go down to Fulton Fish Market. Mitchell spends a lot of time around this place, mostly because he likes it and it serves him well. The smoky riverbank dawn, the racket the fishmongers make, the seaweedy smell, the sight of this plentifulness always gives me a feeling of well-being, and sometimes they elate me. Here is the start of another one. When things get too much for me, I put a wildflower book and a couple of sandwiches in my pocket and go down to South Shore of Staten Island and wander around a while in one of the cemeteries there. And he writes this about some old men in a saloon, creating an indelible picture. In summer, they sit in the back room, which is cool as a cellar. In winter, they grab the chairs around the stove and sit in them, motionless as barnacles, until around 6, when they yawn, stretch, and start for home, insulated with ale against the dreadful loneliness of the old. He celebrates the independence and individuality of New York gin mills, tiny refuges. One was ruined when it changed locations for a larger kitchen and sadly improved itself out of existence. Dick's old place was dirty and it smelled like the zoo, but it was genuine. His new place is as shiny and undistinguished as a $2 alarm clock. Mitchell's subjects are distinct and distinguished, and they are genuine articles. He writes about self-appointed gypsy kings and seaboat captains, but only the best of the lot. He writes authoritatively about rats, clams, oysters, preachers, strippers, rivers and bays, wildflowers, and fish. Mohawk Indians on the high steel. These are textbook, encyclopedic, thoroughgoing accounts. He records dialogue that goes on uninterrupted for 10, 15, 20 pages. How he recollects this so specifically is beyond my imagining, but I'm glad he did so because it was full to bursting with information related in the most lively and intimate fashion. It was a long book, this collection of his work, over 700 pages, so there is a lot of this, and when a new subject began to unwind, sometimes I would get exasperated and think, oh, I've had enough of this, but then I would resume reading and see it wasn't like that at all. It was fair sailing and most absorbing. I was the impatient one. All good things take time. Besides, the pieces were not meant to be read like that, in one big chunk. One of Mitchell's subjects, the focus of his longest piece, Joe Gould, pretended to one and all that he was writing what he called the oral history, an exact record of life around him, and every man's Samuel Pepys, running to millions of words. I'll put down the informal history of the short-sleeved multitudes, what they have to say about their jobs, love affairs, victuals, sprees, scrapes, and sorrows, Gould vowed. He never did this. He was putting up a false front to mask his ubiquitous inadequacy. But, to some extent, Joseph Mitchell did it. His writing is not punctuated with murders or celebrities. He did not shine a spotlight. He worked with a miner's headlamp and a candle. He wrote about people reflecting on their lives and the world around them. The world he wrote about is gone, and now he is also forgotten. But Calvin Trillin was right. He did a hell of a job. He's still well worth reading.